What's up, guys? Back to a different banger this time. I think this might be the first video on this channel. Maybe it's not. I recorded a bunch of videos, and I will for the rest of the night. Currently, we have 1:18 a.m. So yeah, it's an 11 day, which is very important, very emotional. So and influential. So basically I was thinking, like, if I make a second channel which is very different to League of Legends, would I behave differently? Honestly, I don't think so, because I'm actually very authentic in my League videos. It's just, about League though, right? Obviously there's some personality involved with that stuff, how I teach it in my videos, but yeah, basically it's the same, just different stuff, right? So I was thinking about what am I going to talk about, and because I recorded some videos already, I noticed a lot that I'm very ADHD. Like I don't believe I have it, and I think everyone has ADHD to some degree, but just with some people it's so extreme that it's actually getting diagnosed, right? And they have a certain dopamine deficiency in their brain, so they're wired differently. But yeah, because when I was recording videos without a plan, I was just jumping back and forth, which are really good videos. Like, I wish I could record them, but I think they're too autistic. Like, I talk about 10 topics, very in depth, so those videos are like 2 hours long. Yeah, I will have to see about that. So I was thinking here, while I was drinking my Red Bull, just finishing the video, how am I going to plan this with those videos? I honestly think the best approach that has worked for me so far, especially with my YouTube, was just doing what I feel like doing, because my intuition is very good. Like, I'm very aware of what I have to do to get it done. So yeah, for example, with my YouTube, at one point, a friend of mine actually did a thumbnail for me, right? He did it way better. He's like hands down so good at doing like those image type of stuff, editing and all of that shit. Way better. If you go to my channel, my main channel, you will see it was back then, like 6 months ago or something. It was a Viego thumbnail. It was so professional, but it didn't get any clicks. And the reason for that is not because he was bad at it. The reason is because I told him to make it professional, right? Because as you know, my normal thumbnails, they're literally, they look professional. Some dude told me in my coaching today, because we talked about that stuff, right? Kind of on the side. And he said they look professional, but they look also very individual. And I was like, damn, you're so right about that. That's how I always felt, but I never articulated it in my brain, right? He's so right. Because it really stands out in the YouTube feed, right? A very individual style that you keep. That's why I always do, the paper background on my videos. And I think I will keep that forever. Like, I love that style. I think that's the best way to go about it. And as you can see, the ADHD is kicking in. Like, I just told you an entire story and I didn't plan to do that. So, as I've said, I'm just gonna do it how I feel like doing. And yeah, I was just about to say something else. I just wanna stick to one topic though, maybe I'm just rambling in every video, who knows. But one thing I really want to talk about, I'm gonna make a different video actually on how you can, I'm using this as an example, how you can, your addiction specifically, to actually transform them and achieve stuff that is actually worthwhile, instead of wasting your life on addiction and wasting your health, and actually getting something for it. And sorry if I'm, if you keep hearing this sound, I've been sick, kind of, so I cannot really change it. So yeah, these types of videos, I will not edit them. I am not some self-improvement type of guy who does this high quality reels. Again, I think the market is oversaturated, and I just want to do it like in my own way, right? Because that's always what worked out for me the best way. As I've said with the thumbnail, it was an approach to copy those popular people with the thumbnail. Didn't work out. Too oversaturated, and I knew it, and that's why I instantly changed its style, even though it was a great thumbnail. So yeah, what am I going to talk about? This I will leave on the side for now. This is a different topic, addiction specifically, because I really want to talk about that in one video, if I can do that and I don't scatter brain. What I think I want to talk about is basically a very important thing. I think it's a broad topic, but let's just start with uh, I mean, I'm pretty young. A lot of people think I'm like 24. I've heard some people say when I got a full beard grown and I was like bulking for the gym. So I was very heavy and way more muscles than now. Because right now I'm just in a different cycle, I would say. Of course, not steroids, guys. I'm not talking about steroid cycle. I'm talking about, life cycle. I need to fix some other shit right now, which I really want to do. So gym, most likely I'm gonna bulk up in a couple of months again. Again, the progress once you get in the gym, you get it back like this. Doesn't matter if you lose it at one point. If you already obtained that shit. So what I really want to talk about is how can you achieve your goals. I wanted to talk about it with the addiction stuff. It's still the same topic, but just different connection. Because in my life, I'm actually young. Like I turned 20 this year. I'm pretty young actually. But I actually experienced a bunch of shit in my life. Like I'm always, keep going, no matter what happens. And there's been a lot of trauma actually happened to my life. But I recognized I don't have those modern diseases like depression, not at all. I think that's partly because of my upbringing, so nothing really affected me that much to the point where it was detrimental. Of course, everyone has something detrimental that we don't know, that's subconsciously planted in here, especially childhood. But I would say more so, I have more positive shit from my childhood than negative shit. That's actually a very interesting topic. I think I was kind of possessed as a child. I'm not even joking. That is very deep stuff. It's not that I think that it was the way, but I could definitely, I would not cross it out, right? That's a way different topic. I don't want to go too esoteric here, but it makes sense. I experienced a lot of shit in my life. I'm not going to talk about specifically what. Like I could make 100 videos talking about very interesting stuff that happened. But basically, what I want to talk about is how from my experience, the stuff that worked out for me. I can just give a brief overview. Anything I've ever done and I genuinely was curious about. That's a very important word, being curious. And I kind of want to teach something in this video because that's just from my experience, right? Curiosity and your mindset. I hate using that word mindset because it's very overused, but that's basically what I mean with mindset is and curiosity. When it comes to mindset, it's basically how your inner machine is working in your brain. And that is the most important thing you could ever learn in your life. I am not talking about hard work. I'm not talking about all of the self-improvement shit that has a good the root in itself is good. The motivation, how it started, red pill, all this kind of stuff. It all started with improving lives, especially for men who don't have it as fortunate genetically or whatever, right? Just improving, right? Getting money up and all of that stuff. That's great. It's very, very, very much so not deep at all, though, what they talk about. Everyone knows what they talk about. Even if someone didn't know, improvement stuff, like all this no fab, like there's so much shit that is in self improvement, which has a good core in itself, but it's nothing new. What I want to talk about is this thing right here and go deeper into that. Because a lot of people might not know this about me. Actually, close friends do, kinda. Um, while I do not look like a nerd, I am actually kind of fortunate. I don't look like a nerd, but I do have the knowledge of a nerd because I'm very curious about a lot of shit, right? But I don't look like a nerd, right? So I can get girls and I am smart as well, right? Not saying that I use my knowledge to get girls. That doesn't work ever. I don't care who says anything. A girl wants you because she likes your face and she likes your height, right? Having a good frame is good as well. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. That shit is also trash. That's a different topic. Basically, it's genetics. So yeah, but I can get girls and I'm smart as well, so I can get my money and everything up, and I can still not live like a nerd, right? And pay for hookers. So basically, the thing about your mind is this is very deep, and not a lot of people know this about me. I read a shit ton in my life, and I've watched a lot of videos. I've read a lot of stuff, which is very important. Not just books, online stuff, not just the stuff that everyone kind of everyone kind of passes by once they are in the self-improvement stage, let's say, or maybe more philosophical stage, like very deep stuff. If I'm curious, I'm going to the root of things. Like I'm going straight to the core. Like I want to know everything. The one thing with me though is as soon as I know everything, I drop that shit. That's not why I stopped with the coaching stuff. Not at all. It doesn't make sense. Like my parents, my friends, everyone told me literally, uh, you are so gifted. You are the most gifted person ever, but you're such a retard for stopping doing that. I had my reasons for that, but I would also say, even if there wasn't a certain circumstance, will talk about what happened actually in a different video. You can say a lot of stuff that is gonna be on this channel, but for those people who are interested, I guess this is a really gold mine, this channel. I will talk about what happened, yes. If I can in depth, it will take some time though. So that situation kind of, settles down. So where was I? That's what I mean, right? I'm just losing the point every time. Self-improvement, right? I talked about this right here. I read a lot of books. I read anything from Carl Jung, Plato. I read a lot of stuff. I've had some influence in my life, why I came to that, right? I read all of the mainstream stuff. I've consumed a lot of knowledge that mainstream stuff is, but I went way deeper. And there is one thing, I even have a book up here, I believe, or up here, by Never Goddard. That is the first guy who I really heard about. If you don't know him, you write him like his name is just like you say it, Never Goddard, literally God, but then another D and art, like not art, like with a D, not with a T. Basically, it is very esoteric. And he basically his life's work was basically analyzing the Bible, and he got a lot of criticism, but also like people either hated him or not. He was back in the 1900s, no 2000s, but like 1940 something, right? Actually 1950 or something, I think. So I think it's dead already. But his teaching basically was he dissected the Bible. The book is big as I read almost all of it. That's one of the first books I actually read completely because everything was useful in that book. And he dissected the Bible basically, saying the Bible is nothing but what was his wording? A psychological drama of your mind as a man. Or, they talked differently. He always said man, right? That's how you talked back then, but obviously women as well. I think with men it's kind of different though. And he dissected it. I don't want to go too in depth, and it's way too big of a topic. But basically, you come to realization. If you're an atheist or you are Christian, it will actually change your reality, because if you're open to that and you're not stubborn, it makes a lot of sense. It might take time for some people. Some people are not ready for that shit. But if you actually apply that shit, you realize it means a lot. I'm not gonna go into in depth why the real Bible is very misunderstood. I'm just gonna say this, right? Basically, his book was about, or his entire teaching, his entire life, like he made big money because people, got onto the train and it worked out really good. He had a lot of rich clients as well. So he had his story, right? He had to enlist for war. I think, was it Vietnam? I don't think so. Something like that. And he was in Barbados, I think. And he realized that through the stuff he observed. Like, I don't know how genius this guy was, but he came up with this on his own, that the Bible is written wrong. Or it's written in basically it's not obvious, right? It's like a code language. So let's say for example in the Bible it says, and I'm not a Christian, like I'm Christian, but I'm not a Christian at all. Like I'm Christian, like even though I skipped like the certain ceremony there's, so I'm not officially I think a Christian anymore, but I was born a Christian. I was like baptized and all that shit, but he basically in the Bible it says a very famous passage actually. I think anyone, was it Jesus, was it some person, I don't give a shit, it doesn't matter actually. But there's this big, it's a quote as well, quite famous. If you pray, you have to lock the door, you have to shut the senses, something like that. That's basically what it says. And a lot of people would take that and transform that into prayer, going to the church every Sunday. Very wrong. Why? It says you have to shut the door. So going to the church is a ceremony. That's nice. I get why people do it, but it says you have to shut the door. So you have to be on your own. I get it. You can do that in a church. It's quite silent. There's, certain times for prayer and shit. I never went to the church, but the point basically is, and it also says in the same passage, that the hypocrites are forcing themselves and other people every day into this routinely, church ceremony. But it basically says it doesn't make sense because you have to shut out your senses. And that basically means what it's coming down to, okay? This entire life work is basically how your thinking changes your entire life, actually. And every single thing is a projection of your own conscious. And if you go deeper into this topic, you realize your conscious is just a part of the collective, right? So it makes sense that everyone is actually one, right? And it's just all a projection. Anyways, what I realized in my life is, and I've always done this subconsciously, but even more so when I learned it when I was like 14 or some shit, actually, like 6 years ago. Crazy actually. What you learn with that is, anything in life, what I've experienced, anything I have achieved and you have genuinely achieved in your life, it all came from a seed that you planted at some point in your mind. And this is very important. A lot of people, Christian or not, praying is nothing else than, most of the time, unless you're very weird, praying for something better in your life or in someone else's life. But we will just reduce it to your life now, because if you fix your life, anyone else's life is going to get better regardless, right? So in order to pray, people do this wrong. How many times do you see movies or in real life people are starting to pray when they're basically, when life is fucked up, basically? That's when most people become like, they believe in something higher than themselves. And this is very wrong. Like, obviously doing that in that circumstance is not wrong, but people start praying, and even people who don't start doing it, they do it like every day. They don't do it with a positive emotion. That is very important. If you start praying and you are literally crying and you say stuff but you don't feel it, right? And especially the wording is very important, because how you think is how you say, and your thinking is so important, okay? So basically, if you say, let's say, I don't know, for me, for example, let's say I was very desperate, I lost my job, and I'm praying for money. The normal person would pray in a way, in a very like sad, right? They would be sad. They would literally say out loud, which you don't have to do, but they do it. They say, "Oh, please God, please give me a better chance," whatever. 99% of people actually speak that prayer into existence. The fake shit about it though is, their life actually stays stuck the same. Why? Because they do not think about a positive outcome. They don't feel right now what they want to feel. That is the important shit, right? You actually have to kind of brainwash yourself in that moment and literally envision yourself, right? Shut out the door, like close the door, go into your room yourself, shut out the senses. That basically means you shut out your reality. That's what it means in the Bible. And basically, what it basically means is, you do that, you just go within, you don't hear anything. Quiet room, no light, dark as fuck, nothing. You just focus on that seed that you plant, and you think basically with love. But to explain it more easier, you just experience what you feel. And obviously, we want to pray for something. I'm using the word prayer. You want to imagine something, right? That is obviously good for your life. Let's say you lost your job, you don't know what to do, but you know for sure that you want a stable career with a stable income, right? You don't think how you get there. No, you go straight to the end goal and you envision yourself. I envision myself in a red Lamborghini or whatever, And I see myself walking out of that first person, third person. I have my parents congratulating me on my Lamborghini. And that is reality. If you genuinely live in this imaginative state, right? That is the biggest thing you could ever do in your life, because that allows you to do anything. And I remember this one quote. I actually looked it up on YouTube. Let me actually see here. It says it was by Albert Einstein, um, which you can argue is a genius. I think there have been smarter people than him. He said one thing: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. How many prayers have not been heard and actually never come to fulfillment? I can tell you, basically almost every prayer, because everyone prays and they're like crying and they don't believe what they say. And the important thing is, even if they do, it's detrimental to them, because they don't say, I am. That is very important. He talks about this a lot in his book. I am rich. Like, it's basically the manifestation stuff all came from this book, but people, they teach it way wrong. Just like League of Legends, they teach that shit wrong as well. Like, everyone teaches you wrong stuff. They say the teaching is you have to say, I am rich. Why? Because you're literally imagining it. Because you do not want to destroy your entire fantasy. And I don't like to use fantasy because that conveys an idea of something not attainable. That imagination, that thing that you want, if you say that, I will be rich, let's say, basic example, that is wrong. You have to say, I am rich. It's very important. I am rich doesn't mean shit though. You have to say, you don't even have to say a number like I am a millionaire. No one cares about money that much. You have to say, I'm driving a red Lambo. I imagine it like that. My parents, you imagine all of that, congratulating me. Everything you want to imagine in that fantasy. And you say, I am. Why? In your mind, you say, I am, or you don't say it, but you think it, right? And you just experience the stuff that you want to experience, and nothing negative. Nothing negative. And because that works, if you say, my life is shit, and you imagine shit life, you actually start to feel that if you let it happen and you're aware of that, and you just you wallow in that feeling. That works as well. And that's what a lot of people do, even though they don't want to do it, because they say, I will be rich. Why is that bad? First of all, they're not imagining that. So basically, I think it doesn't work anyways. But it works in a way that even if you imagine stuff, but you say, I will be, if you imagine that as a feeling of not there being yet, but someday in the future, you are just denying that feeling, because saying I am rich is denying the reality of you being rich right now. And I know it's a complete mindfuck. It doesn't make logical sense, because basically I'm telling you right now that you have to believe that you're something which you're not. But that is the thing about our brains. How many motivational speeches are there of literal top athletes, millionaires? And they say the biggest thing was belief. That is something. Having hope, belief. Having hope means basically believing in something no matter how bad the circumstances now. That is hope. You have to have hope. And actually, so much of a hope that you could literally lose a leg right now and you would still believe that you have a leg. I get it. That is a very extreme example. That doesn't work. And people bring up that example, right? Oh, but if I don't have a leg, right? Can I actually like grow my leg back? That is something I've always thought about, why that wouldn't work. Because if the other shit worked, that would have to work as well. I don't know. Actually, though, it kind of works, right? Because let's say someone hopes for a leg, and in a year from that, they believe in that, and they actually get a prosthetic leg, right? They get an artificial leg. You got your leg back, right? I'm aware it's not a real leg, but everything that you need in life, what I've observed, you actually get, right? And I've always questioned myself, well, there's this one guy, he's very popular. He was like a ski jumper, like those people who just try to jump as far as possible in the air with their skis. And there was this one guy from England, from the UK, I think. Because I'm not sure. It was some dude from a certain country where people don't even know how to ski because they don't have snow, right? They don't have snow season, and he made it his mission to just be on the leaderboard, right? And he didn't get a world record, nothing, but he made one thing: his belief to make it to something worthwhile in that sport, even though not a single person in his country has ever done it. There's actually a Netflix documentary. I don't know his name though. I think he's quite popular though. He made that happen. So you might say, okay, but if I'm just a basic fattest white dude with the worst genetics, what if I believe that? What if my goal is being the next Usain Bolt world record holder? I think if you're meant for that, you will achieve that. But stuff you're not meant for, you don't even want anyways, right? You like genuinely want. There's people in this world, they say, I wanna be a millionaire. They just want a happy life. They want a stable income. They don't want to work in the slave jobs anymore. Like, they would be perfectly fine saying, I just want a stable income. Like, I want my 5K a month in America. Shit is cheap, shit is expensive and stuff there, right? So 5K is kind of good. And that's it. I don't want to work and be a slave, right? That is most likely what they would achieve. Because not everyone is meant. Like, being a billionaire has a lot of drama behind it. Like, if you're chasing money to the point where you're just chasing numbers, that is not a healthy human being. A healthy human being wants to be free. Of course, what is a healthy human being? Again, you might ask. That's a different topic. A lot of speculation you could make around that. But what I'm trying to say is, anything you really want to achieve and you are meant to achieve, you will achieve by literally closing out your senses and setting your mindset to literally being at the end goal. And this is how you plant a seed. I will try to link it in the description. There is this video of Earl Nightingale. Yeah, he was literally the first person who's, you could say he's a improvement guy, right? But he was like a radio host, very successful back in the day, one of the most successful people ever in America when it comes to that. And he has this very famous 30-minute video on YouTube where he talks just about this. I advise you to watch that video. Watch it before you go to sleep and just think about it, okay? I'm gonna summarize it. But really watch that video. It's really worth it. Way better than my summarization. He basically talks about this concept and he says, if you plant a seed, actually in the Bible, what does it say in the Bible? The most famous quote ever: you reap what you sow. What does that mean? They're not talking about farmers on a fucking farmland. No, they're talking about every single human being's mind and key to achieving success. As I've said, the Bible is literally written in sign language. Only a few people understand. I think the reasoning behind it is because it was like occult knowledge, and the people who created or who came across this ancient knowledge, they didn't spread it to anyone, or they were afraid of people killing them maybe for it. I'm not sure. That would be maybe the reason, or they wanted to keep it to themselves maybe, and leave everyone in the dark maybe. I don't know. But basically, Earl Nightingale talks about you reap what you sow, right? What does it mean? It literally means you reap, you achieve what you sow. Sowing something means planting a seed, and eventually, if you water that seed with whatever, that's the outcome you get. That's very important. He makes this comparison. If you have this seed in your mind that you want to achieve 10K a month, let's say, in money, if you water that seed daily with anything but bad, pure positivity, thinking from that goal, not how you're gonna achieve it, just being positive about it and letting your intuition guide you, and not a single negative thought. It's a 30-day challenge. You talked about it. 30 days being completely positive every single day about that and not doubting it, even though you don't know how you will achieve it. If you water that seed with water, right? In that term, it's good, right? Being positive, that's water. Then you get that what you sow and how you watered it. If he makes this comparison to, if you use a toxin, right? If you use like a pesticide and you feed that seed that you planted with that pesticide, you're literally destroying your life most likely. Because what will you reap? Well, something toxic in your life, right? It will not be positive in any way. So I highly advise you to watch that video. I can see now in OBS, like it's already been 30 minutes. I would love to talk like for another 5 hours about this, but I don't want to make this too long basically what I learned in my life is I've always done it subconsciously, but even more so when I actually learned about this and really internalized this stuff. Everything in my life that I've ever achieved, like I've benched 200 kg, right? That's like 450 pounds, I think, or more than that. I don't know. It's like four plates and a little bit more. I've been good in any sport I've ever played. Um, I've been in school, like I never had problems. Like I always believed, yeah, I don't have to learn that shit. I'm gonna make it anyways. I never was in school. There's a different story. Like I skipped school like a motherfucker. I was never sick. Like I've never been sick ever when I skipped school, honestly. League of Legends. Uh, I saw my brother playing at 9 years old. I was like, at some point, like with 16, I really want to log in. I like this game. Let's get the best. Reach Challenger. On support, switch to jungle. A couple of years later, reach Challenger there, right? Now I'm making coaching content. Why I did coaching is basically from a traumatic experience. Turned out really good. Why? Because I was like, hey, let's use my knowledge here and really believe in making money with that, because I worked a lot of 9 to 5 jobs and I realized that that ain't the life for me, man. And what happened? I made coaching for a couple of weeks and I earned more than literally most of your parents. Like, this is not cocky in any way. I achieved something in a couple of weeks. Of course, I haven't paid taxes yet, right? Because I was still under that certain threshold where you have to pay taxes, because I actually stopped with coaching then, which is very weird, actually, right? Why would someone stop when he's making more money than he could ever make from his university degree? Um, that shit works. Anything I've ever done in life with that intention worked out great for me. Anything. And I can tell you, watch this video by Earl Nightingale, maybe about Neville Goddard as well. It seems, I get it. It seems very esoteric. It seems like stuff, manifestation, right? That's what people call it. What TikTok girls talk about. They do talk about it, but they're TikTok girls. They, like, they teach delusional manifestation. They say, just believe and it will happen. That's bullshit. Like, they don't teach, like, you don't want to think about how, you just want to water that seed and your intuition will guide you there. It's a little bit more than that. Again, look up Earl Nightingale and Neville Goddard if you're really interested. But you don't have to take me as an example. I'm just talking about my experience. Anything ever, like, my life has been the greatest ever because I've always been in control, and that is fucking freedom. Like, that is freedom. And a lot of people don't want to, even if they understand it to some degree. And with all those people who talk about that, anything they needed was will, and you realize that, and believe, and you realize that's basically the same thing. Like, all those popular people that talk about the shit, no one understands it. Now you understand why that works, and it's the only thing you need in life. You realize a lot of people don't want to actually say it's true, because they would realize they had their entire life literally ripped away from them because they were brainwashed and no one ever told them about it. No Bible teaches you that, they teach it wrong. No school system, Jesus Christ, like, they teach you anything but that shit. No one in your friend circle most likely teaches you that, because they would actually laugh at you most likely if you say it to them the first time, even though it makes perfectly sense. You can see, this is like something only a small amount of the population get, and an even smaller amount that actually do it, because actually people don't even want to know that it's true, because they would realize their entire life they could have actually achieved something. And the next thing is, we are addicted to losing. Every single person, losing is addicting. Why? Because once you realize this responsibility that you can change your entire life, your family's life, everyone's life, you realize the responsibility that you would have with that knowledge, because you realize it's all about you actually doing that and not being a negative, addicted fuck, right? Addicted to losing. Losing is very addicting. It's very. I'm going to talk about a different book. It's like an interview with the devil by Napoleon Hill. He has a very popular book, which is, Think and Grow Rich. I think it's a good book, but that other book is so niche, no one knows about it. It's way better. He talks about, like, being a drifter and being addicted to stuff. Is very much so in our human nature, and it's there's like a positive force in this universe and the negative force on this earth. And being a drifter and actually not, even though you know what you should do, not doing that is the most addicting force. And the dangerous part about it, we are humans of habits, right? If we let those things occupy us for too long, there's a law of magnetism, it's physically proven. Things actually start to solidify in a certain state. So that's why a lot of old people, they don't want to learn anything of technology stuff. Why? Law of magnetism says because they've been so long in their they just become stubborn. That's basically what you would call it, right? um so that's why actually why children learn so quick and so fast, because they have not yet had the opportunity to become fixated at one thing. Yeah, a lot of stuff in this video. I actually wanted to talk about something more funny or something. I guess it's still entertaining in some way. But I just wanted to talk about something. I love teaching stuff. Not even teaching. Even if I'm not teaching and I might be wrong about stuff, and I openly say it if I like please challenge me. Like tell me like no, that is wrong what you're saying, because then XYZ, right? I doubt it will work out, because that is literally the most bulletproof theory. Um, the thing though is, don't believe me, just try it out yourself. Watch the video down in the description. It's a 30-day challenge. He talks about it as well, Earl Nightingale. Um, and I will tell you, if 100 people click on that video by Earl Nightingale and they actually understand it, only a small percentage will actually do that shit. Why? We are addicted to losing. But basically, you all now have the responsibility in your hands. And I hate to say it, your life just changed. Like, if you actually realize this stuff, you have no excuse for anything. Like, literally. Um, so yeah, it's a big topic. It's very esoteric. I don't like calling it like that because that is a very bad connotation. That word. I think for a big reason they don't want you to know about that and actually make fun of the topic. You don't learn in school about that. If you say stuff like this, maybe your religion teacher believes you, no one else maybe, or your psychology teacher, right? They're the weirdest ones, in a way. But yeah, that's basically it. I could keep on going, but I think I will leave it at that. If you want to know more about this sort of stuff, like I've even read about like all those like Carl Jung, Plato, all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff and that intertwines with this, but it's also traumatic stuff, and this talk a lot about dreams and stuff. I'm not too big into dreams. I think it's interesting, but I didn't really care that much about it, because I always wanted to learn stuff that actually is not as much philosophical, but actually can be applied to life to improve. So yeah, I was a big red pill guy. I liked the movement, but I quickly realized it's it's a lot of money stuff, right? It's business. People say the same stuff, regurgitate it, even though it doesn't work for them. They start selling courses to tell you how to make money, even though they make money by making courses. I think people come to realize that slowly. So yeah, this is one of those talks. I'm glad I actually kind of stayed on topic. I'm quite surprised actually. But yeah, tell me what you want to hear. I don't know, some live stuff or more about this shit. But yeah, I could talk hours about this shit and experiences about it. But yeah, yeah, thanks for watching this banger video. I don't know how many times I'm gonna upload on this channel. Try to upload as much as possible, I guess. So yeah, keep me accountable if I don't upload. Okay, I'm a lazy fuck sometimes. Actually, yeah. Why? Because we are addicted to losing. All right, have a good one. And I'm not gonna cut this out.